¿Qué pasa? Welcome, bienvenido again to RadioLatinoTV.com. And today we have the show, a special show really. We have a guest today, and this is normally when you would listen to Fernando Zapari. And not to worry, he will return. Today it's a vacation day for Fernando, a well-deserved vacation day. Before we continue on here with our show and really get going, I'd very much like to thank our sponsor, and that is John Rogers, attorney at law in Fort Wayne, Indiana. John Rogers handles a number of different types of cases, criminal cases, documents, he will help with documents, documentos falsos, and so on, discrimination, immigration issues, accidents, and more. Basically, John Rogers provides pretty much it's like going to a restaurant and looking at a menu, pretty much a full service set of legal services, and we would like to very much thank John Rogers for sponsoring the show. John can be contacted in English at 426-0674, in Espanol at 704-0682. John Rogers is located at 444 East Main Street in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and thank you for our sponsor today. And we are not going to disappoint our sponsor today. We are here with John McGauley, Allen County Recorder, who is running for Allen County Commissioner and will be on the ballot in Indiana in May for what's called the Indiana primary. And that is what we're now going to talk about. So welcome back, John.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We are going to talk about the Indiana primary. Now, we've been watching the news and we've been hearing about primary after primary, and Indiana will have its turn. Not this week, it's May the 6th. Gives you more time, John.
That's right. We got 80, I think it's 81 days, maybe, I think it's 81 days from today.
So Indiana was not the first, but Indiana will probably not be the last, and it's May the 6th. Now, from what we've been watching on TV and so on, the focus of the primaries so far have been on the presidential candidates for the Republican Party, because Barack Obama is running unopposed for the Democratic Party. But the Indiana primary, now that primaries are picking up and there's more of them, and there have been local elections, now we are going to see more people on the ballot in May for the Indiana primary. Yes, there will be the presidential candidates at the time. They will be on there. But there will also be a number of other ones, and they are some important ones. Now, let's talk about that first, John. What does a person expect to see when they go to vote in May on the ballot? I mean, what are they expecting to look at?
They're going to see offices ranging all the way from president down to what I'm running for this year. You know, you're going to see all 9. I think we're down to 9 members of Congress are going to be on the ballot this year. We're in the 3rd district, so you'll see that race on our ballot. You will see at the local level Allen County Treasurer, 3 members of Allen County Council. You'll be voting for 3, but there are a lot more than 3 candidates this year. Members of Allen County Council, Allen County Commissioner's race, Allen County Treasurer. The coroner is on the ballot this year. You will see this will be a lot longer ballot, a lot more things to think about this year than you saw last year during the city races.
All of these offices to basically be elected civic, community, political leaders of the people. It's really up to the voters to decide who wins and who loses, and
that's right.
And so it's so important to vote. So let's before we talk more about the individual races, how does this work, John? Let's just pretend it's anyone. All right, when you go to a primary, we have a Democratic primary and a Republican primary.
That's right.
So a person, it's not like in November in the general election when a person walks into the voting booth and can vote for a Republican for this, a Democrat for this position, and go back and forth, or split their ticket,
That's right.
their vote. I mean, so how does a person decide, or how does a person qualify to vote for either the Republican primary or the Democratic primary, particularly a person who's more interested in the Republican primary, but has basically voted maybe for more Democratic people in the past than others, but considers himself or herself independent. Independent.
And it really is important. I mean, the thing that doesn't get said very often is it's really important for people to get out and vote in these primaries, because this is when you're picking who you actually get to put in office in November. These are the candidates you're going to see on that fall ballot. But in Indiana, we have an open system where you can, for the most part, hop back and forth, year after year. If you're more interested in the Republican slate one year than the Democrat slate the next, there's very little. It's almost impossible for somebody to challenge your right to do that. Now, what it does though is it puts you down. It leaves a trail, of how many times you voted Republican, how many times you voted Democrat, which scares some people off sometimes because they don't want to declare an allegiance.
So, John, was the last primary 2 years ago or 4?
Actually, there was one last year. The city primary would have been last year. Then you're back to 2010 with a countywide race that had Congress on it and others.
Well, I guess my question would be this: let's say somebody voted in the last primary as a Republican. As you say, there will be a trail of that.
Yeah.
And now this time they'd rather vote in the Democratic primary, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. Can they do that?
Yes. Yeah.
Because it's open. It's an open primary.
It's really as complicated as walking up to the table when you go to your polling place. And they're going to ask you there, do you want a Republican ballot or a Democrat ballot? They give you a little piece of paper that you take to the person who's running the polling station, and they set the ballot to whichever one it is. All you have to do is just do that right there at the desk.
And in order to walk up to the polling place, what is needed? An ID card and to be registered to vote. And how long do people have to do that, and where can they go to do that?
This year in Indiana, you've got until April the 9th to register for the May primary. What you are required to have is a government-issued photo ID. That can be a driver's license, that can be an ID card, any sort of identification that has a photo on it that's issued by the government. That's what you're required to produce at the polling place. Now, if somebody doesn't have that, in many cases they're allowed to cast what's called a provisional ballot, and if you can produce that later on, then you're there that day or the next day or something like that. Your provisional ballot probably winds up getting counted, but it's a good idea to take it to the polling place, because then you don't have to worry about it later on.
And we just talked about the building, the city county buildings downtown, but a person doesn't need to go there necessarily. No. They can go to motor vehicles.
You can go to the motor vehicle. You can go to Bureau of Motor Vehicles and do it. You can download the documents online and mail them in. Yeah, the Secretary of State's office in Indiana makes those available online. The Allen County Election Board makes those available online. You can walk into the election board and do it. And they are actually also not in Citizen Square yet. They're in a building on Superior Street that used to house the highway department and the building department. So they're still there, and I believe they're staying there. So you can walk in and do that in person. A lot of different organizations do voter registration drives. If you call the party that you affiliate yourself with, chances are you can get somebody to come to your door and register you to vote, especially this time of year.
It's amazing, John, and I hate to bring this up, but when we watch the news and we see people throughout the world fighting for their freedom.
That's right.
And I'm thinking Syria right now. And here we have, it's so easy for us to register to vote in the Estados Unidos. It's really up to us, and other people are fighting and fighting to have the same privilege we do. So, John just explained that you can even do it online, voter registration, or go to motor vehicles, or go to the offices downtown, or whatever. And I'm glad you pointed that out, John. The primary is going to it's going to eliminate people.
Yes.
Is that a good way to put it?
That's it.
It's really all about eliminating people.
It culls the field.
And so when we go in November the 6th, I believe, to vote, the ballot will show the results of that.
That's right.
So we won't have 10 names under governor of Indiana. We will have 2. One Republican, one Democrat. unless there's an independent party candidate. So it really eliminates people. Okay, I just mentioned governor. Let's start there. The interesting races, in your opinion, John, for voters, the ones we're going to be hearing about now in the next 80 days and more.
If you don't just think about, Allen County, Indiana, there are several of them. I mean, you're talking about a governor's race that's going to be very interesting. I mean, the people think about Mike Pence as inevitable, and that may be the case. But John Gregg is a very potent candidate. I mean, it's going to be interesting. You will not be bored with the governor's race this year.
All right, and John, if I can interrupt, John,
sure.
Just to fill people in as to who the people are.
Right.
Mike Pence would be our right now. If you live in Muncie,
yes,
that's your congressman.
Yes.
Very, very visible on Capitol Hill as a congressman. Now he is now running for governor.
Yes.
And Robert Gregg used to be the secretary of in the House of used to be the speaker
of the House.
House of Representatives.
That's right. In the early '90s, I believe he was there for a long time, but in the early mid '90s, he was secretary. He was Speaker of the House of Representatives at the General Assembly.
Is there another candidate? And I'm thinking of the person.
There is a libertarian running, Rupert Bonham. You might remember him from the first couple of seasons of Survivor. He's native of Central Indiana. There's also another Republican running in the race that Congressman Pence is dominating so well. Now I'm forgetting his name, but I think it's Jim.
The point you're making, John, is exactly this. We only hear about Mike Pence.
That's right.
And John Gregg. I mean, to find out the other two is somewhat difficult to do because you need to do some internet research.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
See if John's doing that right now. But yes, Rupert Bonham would be a libertarian candidate, and he was very popular on the Survivor show. Now, John will give us the name, but we are going to move on to another one. By the way, the point you just made, John, is excellent. I mean, it reinforced the point that this primary election is really a whittling away process. If we have 4 people running for governor,
Jim Wallace
is number 4.
Is the other Republican candidate.
We have it. Okay, John.
Does that illustrate the problem?
That does, because if we go in November and have 10 people running for governor, it's going to be very confusing. Let's narrow it down.
Exactly.
Especially by political party.
Yes.
Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, and maybe Independent.
Make your best case in the spring, and you're the candidate in the fall.
Wow. So that took... All right. But here's